A lot of questions still here. The Caroline County Sheriff's Office says that they are working to identify another person. We know that person now is a female. She was found after someone reported what they believed was a body on their property off Bagby Road. As for Jayden McComber, officials say based on evidence they found investigating the female's homicide, they were led to searching the pond.
I spoke with Jayden's barber, Curtis Blow, here at Cush Cut Studios. He tells me he was more than Jayden's barber, but a mentor, and he cut his hair hours before he disappeared.
You walk into a barber shop on a normal Tuesday morning. You sit in the chair, you talk about your future, your plans, your family. Nothing about this moment feels dangerous. That's exactly how March 25th started for 18-year-old Jayden McComber. He was a senior at Hopewell High School. He swam on the team, not for himself, but to support his younger brother. He talked about working with his dad one day. He had a plan for his life, and that plan felt close enough to touch. His barber, Curtis Blow, had known him since he was 11 years old. Blow wasn't just cutting his hair that morning. He was mentoring him. He watched Jayden grow into a young man with real direction. Here's Promise 1. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that AirTag signal showed police, and why it moved so fast. Here's Promise 2. You'll learn why investigators believe Jayden's murder was never a random act of violence. Jayden left that barbershop. He drove off in his truck. And then, silence. No texts, no calls, no answer. His family assumed he was busy. Hours passed. Then a full day passed. That silence turned into something heavier than worry. If cases like this keep you searching for the truth, hit subscribe right now, because what happens next changes everything you think you know about this case. Nobody realized that haircut was the last normal moment of Jayden's life. What his phone would eventually lead police to was far worse than anyone expected. What started as a missing persons report was about to turn into something Hopewell was not prepared for. Evidence. You need to understand how fast this case moved. Once Jayden was reported missing, investigators didn't wait. They pulled phone records. They checked surveillance footage. They traced every location ping they could find. Then they got their first real lead. Jayden's truck turned up abandoned at a motel in Virginia Beach. That's over 90 miles from Hopewell. Someone else drove that truck there. Someone wanted it far away from the crime. Forensic teams processed the vehicle inch by inch. Inside, they pulled trace evidence tying the truck's last movements directly back toward Caroline County, the exact area where Jayden was last seen alive. While that search continued, something else happened nearby. A property owner walked through a wooded area and found human remains. The condition made identification almost impossible. Police said someone had gone to extreme lengths to hide this victim's identity. At this point, nobody connected these two discoveries. They looked like two separate tragedies in the same rural county. Then investigators turned their attention to a pond near the Caroline and King and Queen County line. Here's where Promise 1 pays off. Jayden's AirTag had been pinging from a fixed location for days, a spot that matched no logical route home. That single, stationary signal is what pulled search teams directly to that water, instead of searching blind for miles in every direction. They moved through the pond, and their worst fear became reality. Jayden's body surfaced from Bird's Mill Pond. Evidence gathered during the investigation leads us to believe these two incidents are likely connected, said Sheriff Scott Moser. A missing persons case had officially become a homicide investigation, and it wasn't just about Jayden anymore. You now have two bodies, one 5 miles from the other, both hidden, both connected to something much bigger than anyone in Caroline County wanted to believe. This is where the story stops being simple. Investigators had their first body, but 5 miles away, another discovery was about to change everything they thought they understood. Key question. Now you meet the second victim. Her name was Helen Marie Poland Banks. She was 56 years old. Unlike Jayden's case, her disappearance stayed quiet at first. No urgency, no headlines, just a family who assumed she'd call soon. She never did. Helen was the woman found off Bagby Road. Someone had gone to extraordinary lengths to conceal who she was. Investigators later admitted her condition made her nearly impossible to identify using normal methods. Here's Promise 2, delivered in full. Officials confirmed these two deaths were connected, and they were not random. "We do not think that these were random acts of violence," said Major Travis Nutter. "We do believe that all of these people were familiar and knew each other." Let that sink in. An 18-year-old senior, a 56-year-old grandmother, both killed by the same group of people, both hidden just miles apart. Here are 5 facts that changed how investigators saw this case. 1. Helen's disappearance was never publicly linked to Jayden's until forensic testing forced the connection. 2. Both victims required extensive concealment efforts, meaning the killers planned this, not panicked. 3. Timeline records showed both deaths happened within days of each other, not weeks apart. 4. Robbery was flagged as a factor in Jayden's case, but no financial motive existed in Helen's. 5. Everyone involved, victims and suspects, knew each other personally, ruling out a stranger crime entirely. This wasn't a stranger crossing paths with 2 unlucky victims. This was something deliberate, something coordinated. So how does an 18-year-old and a 56-year-old end up connected to the same killers, days apart, without either family knowing the other existed? Investigators already had their answer. You're about to get yours. Before we reveal who they arrested, comment below. Do you think this was one killer or a group acting together? You won't guess how young they really were. The connection was confirmed. Now it was time to learn exactly who was responsible and how close to home they really were. Suspect/truth. On April 2nd, law enforcement executed a search warrant on Brillin Court in Henrico County. Inside, they recovered Jayden's ID, his credit card, and shell casings. This wasn't a guess anymore. This was proof. 4 people were arrested that same day. Rashad Mayfield, 23. Devontae Pettaway, 20. Kennedy Lambert, 18. Jayden Phillips, 19. All 4 faced second-degree murder charges, later upgraded to first-degree for both victims. Robbery was named as a motivating factor in Jayden's death. Helen's motive remains undisclosed to this day. Here's the part that unsettles even seasoned investigators. These suspects weren't strangers passing through. They knew their victims personally. Rashad's own brother, Elwood, broke down, describing him as calm, quiet, someone who stayed home playing video games. He said he couldn't picture his brother doing something like this. That's the disturbing truth about this case. The people capable of this violence didn't look like monsters to the people who loved them. If a detail like that unsettles you as much as it unsettled us, subscribe now, because we're about to show you how both families are still living with the fallout. Bond was denied for all 4 suspects. They were ordered to have 0 contact with each other while the case moved forward. Comment below. Do you think all 4 suspects deserve equal charges? Or do you think one of them played a bigger role than the others? 4 arrests, 2 victims, 1 county forever changed. But for both families, the hardest part was only just beginning. Charges were filed, suspects sat behind bars. But in Hopewell, the grieving had only just started. Unresolved close Jayden's family said it best. He never missed a chance to say I love you. That single line is what Hopewell holds on to now, not the headlines, not the case number. Hopewell High School opened its library for grief counselors. Students wore blue in his honor. A community that watched him grow up now had to learn how to grieve him instead. Nearly 4 months later, investigators finally identified Helen Banks. It took rare, extensive DNA testing just to confirm who she was. Her family remembers her as a mother of 5, a grandmother of 8, someone who made everyone around her laugh. 2 families. 2 devastating losses. 1 unanswered question that still haunts Caroline County. Officials confirmed both killings were premeditated, deliberate, planned. But nobody has said why Helen Banks was targeted. That motive remains sealed inside an ongoing investigation. A senior year that should have ended in caps and gowns ended in a pond instead. A grandmother who should have been home with her great-grandchild ended up in the woods off Bagby Road. Do you think the trial will finally reveal why Helen Banks was killed? Comment your theory below. We read every single one. Subscribe right now so you're the first to know when this trial reaches its verdict. We'll bring you every update the moment it happens. The truth in Caroline County isn't finished being told.